what lurks behind this unassuming storefronts in Cleveland, Ohio. It's the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. Learn the history of Wicca and the tale of those who brought it to the United States. See the tools of magic, once used by practitioners of the arcane arts. It's the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. Welcome back to the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic and the Buckland Museum Radio Frankenstein Controls. Today we're going to speak with author Kristen Sollee. We had planned this last year back as an in real life event, but this was, I guess we planned this back when COVID-19 was just dreaming of taking over the world. So alas, we now have to do this virtually. So first of all, we have some business things to take care of. Tickets are selling very quickly. I think we have a couple tickets left for Saturday. Sunday is completely sold out. The next week, tickets are going really quickly for the weekend. So buy your tickets now. Don't just show up because due to COVID restrictions, our capacity is limited. So people show up and they're like, what do you mean I can't come in? I drove in from Iowa. And I'm like, well, you should have checked the website. I'm really sorry. So let's avoid this kind of situations and buy your tickets online before you come. We have a new t-shirt up for pre-order on our website. It's pretty cool. I'm ordering them, sending the order in on Monday. Appreciate everyone that has purchased one so far. If you'd like one, just visit bucklandmuseum.org. You'll find the shop and you can get one. It's pretty cool. It features our founder, Dr. Raymond Buckland, and people have been asking for one featuring him for the last couple of years. So really excited to be able to share it with you. So anyway, very stoked to introduce Kristen, who, let's see, I met her about 3 years ago at the Occult Humanities Conference at NYU. Which, if you don't know about that, it's amazing. You should go to the next one whenever we can go places again. It's hosted by Pam Grossman, who you know from the Witchery podcast, and Jesse Bransford. Let's see. But Kristen, she's the founder and editor of Slutist, the legendary feminist website. She's a professor. She wrote a really popular book with our visitors here called Witches, Sluts, Feminists. And I am so thrilled to invite you in here to the Buckland Museum, at least the virtual version of it. Kristen, how are you?
I'm so happy to be here.
Cool. So what's new with you? Where are you talking to us from?
I am hanging out in Delaware. I'm a New Yorker, but after months and months of dealing with COVID in New York and all that, I was like, I need a little break, some nature. So here I am.
So speaking of COVID in New York, this is something that you actually have kind of personal experience with, right?
Yes, I got it in the first wave, like lockdown was March 13th. And then I got sick like 3 days later. So wow. Clearly I had been, licking all kinds of germy people leading up to then. And, got a really rough case. And I'm still feeling the effects. Like I'm much better, obviously, but still it is real. And some of us get a really long, obnoxious version. So PSA, wear your mask.
Yeah, please do. People come in and they're like, what do you mean I got to wear a mask? I think about you. I think about my friend Sean, who was on a ventilator when it all began. I'm like, I want nothing to do with this.
And some people might be lucky and get no symptoms at all and be totally fine. Or you might die or get somewhere in between.
Yeah, like something that just lingers for months and months and months and months. And I hope this starts turning around for you quickly.
Thank you. Me too. I'm just happy to be able to talk to you. So that's a win for me.
Yeah, for real. So tell us about your new book.
Oh, I have one here too.
So
I have one.
Here, you pull out yours and I'll pull out mine. Let's see here. So I am in the business of witchcraft tourism.
Yes.
So
and you're in the book. You're in the book.
Yeah, that's right. We do have a little shout out here at the back, which I thought was really exciting, where more resources. This is a really incredibly designed, beautiful front cover. Who designed this?
The front cover is actually designed by a friend of mine, Nicole Hyatt, and she just did a mock-up to show the publisher what I was like into, and then they were like, "We love it, let's do it." So my friend actually got to design the book, so that was really cool.
Awesome, nice, excellent. So tell us about the origins of this book. Where did you see a need for this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a world traveler through my life because my parents had different sort of jobs that required it, and then just traveled. My mom worked in Southeast Asia for many years, so I would travel to where she worked and also go all throughout Europe, etc. And being a lover of all things occult and witchcraft, you know, since I was very little, I always wanted to know the, you know, more hidden magical histories of a lot of places, but there wasn't like a book you could go find with all of that in it. And so, of course, that's a huge subject. So a couple of years ago, I sort of had that in mind, and I was in Italy, and I was going to go to the Oak of the Witches, which is this tree that Pinocchio was written under, and it's also thought to be a place where there were a lot of witches' sabbats, and witches danced on the top of the tree trunk, so they like made a weird shape because of they had danced on them so much. Anyway, I was driving there with a driver, and he pointed out where a lot of the accused witches would have been executed in Florence, and it just came immediately, like it was. I had to do it. I had to make this book. Like that there was this beautiful piazza and such horrors that happened there, and I knew no tourist books were talking about that. So it's not only like a travel guide to places that, you know, have witch hunting memorials, but also places where you would never know something happened there. But it's important that we remember these stories and remember the suffering that took place. And also I wanted to write it so people who couldn't travel would still enjoy it. So I have some historical fiction in there. It's like sort of an immersive journey. And then there's like travel resources in the back. So it's not just for people who want to go travel. Thank goddess, because now a lot of people can't travel. So it's I still think it's a great read, if I don't say so myself, even if you can't like leave your chair. So it's supposed to be armchair travel first and foremost, but if you can travel, there's a ton of tips for how to do that too.
Well, I found it as an incredibly like captivating, page-turning read. So
thank you.
And I do want to point out that we do have copies of this for sale on the website, bucklandmuseum.org. And Kristen has provided us with a really beautiful book plate that she signed that we will include in it. So if you'd like a copy of it, please, because this is the virtual book launch party.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone that's tuning in for it. And also, you know, we'll have copies of this in the museum gift shop for years to come, I'm sure.
I hope so.
So, you know, when I went to Italy, I went to a place that I found a pretty cool, like, tourist destination for my interests. My parents were living in Caserta, which is right near Naples, and it's right by what is the lake? Royal Dante's Seven Gateways to Hell, and there's a Sibyl's Cave in there. And that's where like you know, the Sibyl would tell you your future, etc. And that was probably like really my first piece of occult tourism, and I just kind of stumbled on it, and really, really significant, because when you're in these places, you know, we as Americans, we forget that, you know, there's places where things have gone on for thousands of years, not hundreds of years. Not saying that things didn't really happen here for thousands of years, of course.
Of course.
But, there's something about the European zone where you're like, oh my gosh, this is intense. And not always like the most prettiest stories.
No.
So back when I was a kid, we used to do a thing where I'd get stuck going to my cousins' houses or whatever, and they would show us slides from their their vacations. And I am so excited because, well, we're going to do something like that here. But first of all, I want to shout out to Dusty saying hello from Georgia, USA. And then we have Kelly, who is looks like she's shouting out to one of her friends. So if any of you have any questions, please leave a comment. And Kristen, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm assuming that you'd be super stoked to share any kind of insight for any kind of questions that the guests have. So
absolutely.
Awesome. So let's just go with the first thing that I have here.
The Witchery.
Witchery.
So this is a luxury hotel in Edinburgh. Wait, do I need to move my head here? Because it's cutting. I don't know. So it is right across from where most of the people accused of witchcraft were burned alive. And so it is now called the Witchery, and it's like a fancy hotel with a really fine dining restaurant in the basement. And sort of, it was an interesting place to go because it was very sumptuous and gorgeous, and the decor was incredible. And there's like some of the 10 Commandments on the wall, and there's like a knight suit of armor, and there's gilded things, and I had champagne in the room. But at the same time, you're like right in a place where so much torture and death and really weighty history took place. So it's this like ambivalent thing that comes up with this witch travel, as I like to call it, especially when you're dealing with travel, associated with places where a lot of death and sorrow took place. So I had a blast staying here, but I also was uncomfortable at the same time. And right across the street is the Witch's Well, and I have a picture of that. And that was a memorial to the people that were put to death for witchcraft. But the memorial is even kind of funny because it says all of them were witches in the sense of like how we say witches today, like practicing witches. We know that's not true. The majority of people were people caught at the wrong place at the wrong time, or like doing some simple folk magic or whatnot, and like not the malevolent, sorcerers or sorceresses that like the pamphlets and the government would have you believe. So anyway, it's a gorgeous place to stay, but also sort of uncomfortable, but definitely an unmissable experience, I would say, if you go to Scotland.
So we have a picture of the well as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's next. Yes, there it is. Okay. So that's the Witch's Well.
Guess. So what's going on there?
So it's basically like a little, I could read what it says actually. If I find it in the old book, it's from 1894, I believe. And it says, this fountain, designed by John Duncan, is near the site on which so many witches were burned at the stake. The wicked head and serene head signify that some used their exceptional knowledge for evil purposes, while others were misunderstood and wished their kind nothing but good. The serpent has the dual significance of evil and wisdom. The foxglove spray further emphasizes the dual purpose of many common objects. So they're basically saying they're all witches practicing black magic or white magic, and that's why they died. So it's a little not historically accurate. And so I know there's a lot of Scottish folks who are petitioning to create like a more, historically accurate memorial to all the people put to death in Scotland, which is like about 2,500 people. So that might be coming, in the coming years.
Wow. So what was kind of your feeling when you came upon this? Like,
it's right by the entrance to the castle, and nobody was looking at it. Nobody cared. Everyone was just like going to see royal stuff or just walking on the Royal Mile, going in gift shops. And it was really interesting that I even talked to some locals because I was alone traveling. All this research was done alone, which was another thing that I thought really like helped me, commune with the place or, really connect to the place because there wasn't anybody around. So I had a lot of time just talking to myself or whoever else was there. And so people, even locals, were like, what is that? I've never heard of that. So it's kind of like a hidden gem in a way, unless you know what to look for.
Very cool. So let's see. I like this one here. I've been wondering what this is all about here. I have a feeling I know, but what's going on here?
So that's in
to it. It seems top these days, right?
Yeah, that's the in Lancashire, and so that was the Alice Nutter statue, and she was one of the many women hanged for witchcraft in the Pendle witch trials of 1612. And I went on a ghost hunting tour of like the Pendle witch trials, which was super interesting. I have never really done that before, but I was fascinated to get a bus to go around and see all these things because they're in the middle of the countryside. Like there's like nothing nearby. So we stopped on this tour bus and got out and got to see this statue of one of the women who was commemorated, because it's pretty obvious when you look back at the documents that she had nothing to do with anything, was just sort of caught up in the commotion as like a widow who was also thought to be doing nefarious things just by being a widow. So yeah, obviously people come by and put flowers in her hands, and it's kind of beautiful and somber. And, you know, they made many of these accused walk very far, you know, shackled, as you see. So it's pretty dark.
Yeah, that's super dark. So a lot of these witches are real people.
Yeah.
And what I find really concerning is people sit there and they talk about things like witch hunts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about like almost like a cartoonish way, like, oh boy, they have a witch hunt after me because this and that. Where these are innocent people that got hunted down. And you know, maybe we could talk about your thoughts about that. Like, what really defines a witch hunt? Well,
it's the most misappropriated rhetorical device in American culture, I feel like. And I don't, maybe we can blame Arthur Miller, because I think we would not have this in the US if it wasn't for the Crucible, which sort of brought a distorted version of Salem. I mean, because obviously it was like a polemic against Cold War McCarthyism, but has the whole witch backdrop, because there's nothing historically accurate about the Crucible. But a lot of people think it is accurate, you know, which is kind of a problem. But yeah, I believe that started the use of that phrase to talk about any time, you know, there's a conspiracy afoot. But the funny thing is, witch hunt is always used by the most powerful to say that they're being attacked, when it was really society's most vulnerable who were victims of witch hunts. So like all the politicians, I'm not going to name names because everybody knows, who use that phrase, it's just absurd because they're not being hunted, you know?
No, you're getting a free pass. So we have a question here from our pal Lavender. When did you go, where did you go to that you felt the deepest personal connection, vibe, sensation?
Oh, that is a tough one, because I felt that so many places, actually. But, I think, I mean, this is kind of weird, but we're going to show a picture of this soon, but I went to Hartford, and I felt it a lot of places. But one thing that comes to mind is in Hartford, I went to the Center Church for a church service by the Reverend to commemorate and honor the women accused of witchcraft and put to death, like right there, because they had been members of this church and their communities turned against them. I'm just like getting chills thinking of it. And then we all did a ceremony where we took cairnstones and like brought them to the garden and stacked them. And it was me and a bunch of strangers, a bunch of weird people got together to go to church to commemorate the witches that were accused basically by their communities, probably sometimes in the church, you know? So that really was a powerful, powerful thing. And everyone was just sort of weeping, and it was like beautiful fall, like the leaves were everywhere. I mean, it was a powerful moment. So yeah.
So Dusty England says, "Wonder how the actual people who really were witches thought when they would see these people being accused." Right? I feel like, whoa.
Well, obviously the conceptions of witch back then is so different than what we think today. I mean, people a lot of times were just practicing various forms of like syncretic folk magic meets Catholicism, and they would think they're just doing what they do to get by, but it was out of sync with the mores of the church at the time, So I mean, it must have been horrifying for anybody, honestly, being around that. Yeah, I totally.
Yeah, because you're doing the thing that your grandpa taught you how to do, or your grandpa taught you how to do, and it works for you, and then all of a sudden, the lady down the road disappears, and everybody's throwing stones at her, and you're like.
Yeah, or especially then, like, if you were a Catholic and then it's like in England and then everything sort of turns Anglican and you still have some of those practices and then you're a demon just for being Catholic. Like, weird.
Yeah, it's, well, I see kind of that stuff here now, right? Because, like, you look at, like, the QAnon stuff and they're like, all the people that are like this, these people, they're like this, and I see it like the other way around as well. And, I mean, you can kind of see where people get so riled up that the next thing you know, well, my team, we're going to go hunt you guys down. And we're going to.
Yeah. I mean, in like Bamberg, that was one where it was like kids, men, powerful men, women, everybody was just accusing each other. And that seems like kind of what's happening now, like you say. Yeah. Everybody is just like, trying to put the blame on somebody else.
So we have a hello from Tama, Iowa, USA. Hi, Christina. Welcome to the Buckland Museum. So, what's going on in this photo here? This is cool.
This is another one of those memorial statues I had to visit. This is, you can see the Walgreens in the back, the sign. This is in Virginia Beach. And this is Grace Sherwood, and she was also known as the Virginia Witch, and she was in and out of court a lot in the late 1600s because people thought she was a witch. She kept being called a witch by neighbors, and then she'd sue them for slander, take them to court, try to get money, and it was back and forth. And then in like 1706, she had her final trial, and by then she was widowed, and it ended up where she had to be ducked in the water to do the swim test, and she did not she floated, yes, so she was a witch. And with the records get a little fuzzy there, but there is evidence that like many years later her will was like probated or whatever by the court, so there's a likelihood that she went to prison for a while and then got out. So there's no evidence that she was put to death, but she did go through a terrible ordeal. And right down the street from this is actually a road called Witch Duck Road, and it's like where they ducked her in the water, and it's like the road dead ends into the water. Yeah,
you got to hang right over there at Witch Duck Road. You're gonna know it. Oh my gosh, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
So did I ever tell you that one of my cousins was they called her half-hanged Mary? They kept trying to kill her in Salem, but she wouldn't die. So they just kind of like were like, all right, we're done. My father told me this at our opening of the museum. And I was like, Dad, it's funny you mention this now because I've never heard this story before. And he's like, well, you never operated a witchcraft museum before, so it never really came up. So, so this is the kind of thing that happens to people's family members. Which,
absolutely.
So that's not so far from home. So let's see what's going on here in this photo. This looks fun.
Oh, that's back in Lancashire, and there's just so much like witchy touristy stuff there because the Pendle witches are so renowned across the land. People go there to see, witchy tours and stuff. And this is just a regular bus. There's no, it's not a witch tour bus. It's just a bus that says which way. And I think it just stops at places that were, you know, part of the Pendle witch trials. But as far as I know, it's just a regular bus. But I took a picture. I was like, that's adorable.
So which way? That's, I mean, this just writes itself. That's
I know.
super cute. All right. What is happening here?
So that's in Quedlinburg, and that's in the Harz Mountains. And it's a beautiful medieval town with all these half-timbered houses, and they sell all kinds of like witchy, like schnapps in the shape of witch bottle with schnapps inside, like all this like super tacky tourist stuff, but kind of amazing. And it's really close to where you go to get to the top of the Brocken, because I, you know, had to go to the top of the Brocken, where the most infamous of, you know, witch Sabbaths was supposedly, according to early modern tales. So I took a train to the top of the Brocken. You can only take a train or bike or hike. You can't drive. So I took this 1931 coal burning steam engine train up to the top. And this was like in the town nearby. It's super cute. And just says souvenirs. Don't forget to, what is it? Buy before you fly or something.
Okay, I gotta write that one down because I think I can use that sometime in my marketing for the museum.
Yeah, I think you need to steal this.
Yeah. So
totally a magic bus.
Yeah, right. The magic bus. How fun. So let's see here. So I want to remind everyone here that the reason why we're having this conversation is because of this incredible book right here. Witch Hunt, A Traveler's Guide to the Power and Persecution of the Witch, which was written, if you're just tuning in right now, by our guest, Kristen Sollee. So, how long did it take you to write this? Did you write a bunch of stuff during your travels? You edit them together, or?
Yeah, I had been like unwittingly researching this book for a lot of my life, because I ended up having been to places years before that I included. So, you know, I would say many more years than I actually spent writing the book. So maybe it was, I mean, the book deal to writing it, even though I was taking notes on it for a long time, just because I was like, maybe one day I'll do this wild idea. Maybe a year, 12, 13, 14, like 16 months. So not that long to write, but many years to research. And then I took one really big trip that was going to a lot of new places, going to old places, with the explicit like goal of writing about it in mind. Because obviously when I went in the past, I was just journaling about it or having fun, or not really going as a serious writer trying to do this. So that was last summer, and I spent a month by myself going all across Europe.
And that would have been around the time when I was trying to rope you in to come here to Cleveland, right? Because here you never made it to Ohio, but we had a witch trial here in Ohio in 1805, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems pretty late.
That's very late.
Trial thing. But you know what? We're here in Ohio where we celebrate people like Jim Jordan. So kind of makes sense to me. Anyways, the trial took place. A Bible went flying. Nobody was killed. So that was Ohio's connection to witch hunts. Can you tell me, where in the world would you feel that the most unexpected witch hunts have happened? Or any place where you're surprised? You're like, here?
Yeah, I'm from Maryland, and so there were some Maryland witch trials that I had never heard of, and I'm like, why? Because like in high school, Blair Witch came out when I was in high school, and that was like the big thing. So that was the witchy Maryland thing, Burkittsville and all that. But like that was fake. That's not real. So when I was growing up, I don't know, I didn't think there was any witch stuff. It was just Salem, not Maryland. But yeah, there was at least. There were multiple, witch trials, at least one hanging, one execution. And then there were a lot of these like Chesapeake Bay vigilante justice witch executions. At least 3 women were killed on the way to Maryland or Virginia on the ships they were on, because they ran into rough waters. And then the sailors were like, oh, it's this old woman's fault. And they just all got together and murdered her, basically. And then they came to port and they tried to figure out what happened, but there was no justice served.
Wait. What happened?
So
they went into rough waters, and they're like, well, that was a witch that did this.
Yeah, there's like a widow on board or something, like an older woman or a woman who I don't know, looked off. Who knows what the logic was? I mean, we know kind of what the stereotype of the witch was in the early modern era, but usually women over 40, etc., even though all kinds of people were put to death and accused. But yeah, these 3 different women were executed before they even got to America, but they were all on ships bound for the Chesapeake, which was an interesting, and in Delaware here in Rehoboth, there's an annual Sea Witch Festival. And everyone, it's like all ocean witch stuff. And there's a lot of ocean witch lore, like in Scandinavia, there's a lot of, they believe witches control the weather and can make storms. Like in Scotland, they believe that. So there's a whole Sea Witch Festival here, which is kind of fun. So yeah, there's all this maritime witchery that I didn't really know about until I was looking for it for this book.
Wow. How freaking awesome. So what's going on here? I love this cat. It looks like that one print that everyone in the 90s
Oh,
had.
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
what is that? Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So this is in Triora, which is in the Italian Alps. And they had their own witch hunt 100 years before Salem, around the same time, like 1590. I'm not exactly sure. Off the top of my head, it's in the book. And they have sort of marketed themselves as a Mediterranean Salem. I mean, not like they're making the comparison. I just mean that's kind of the vibe, because they have multiple witchcraft museums about the witch hunt that happened in their town. And there's all kinds of these it's a medieval town. There's these beautiful homes built into the mountain side, and all these doors will have these murals that are sort of witchy. So there's all these other murals with a moon and a triple goddess, and this one I just loved with this cat and a medieval curvature of the town. So I went there for the summer solstice, and they had a festival, and they were playing medieval instruments and marching through the town, and there was people spinning fire and doing a little ritual. It was really cool. So there's sort of neo-pagan rituals there, and they have conferences sometime. And so it's very similar to Salem. That's the best way to put it, even though they have their own thing too. It's different, but there's still commercialization. There's trinkets you can buy, which I was like, what? Some of the same cheapy witch hats are on sale there that you can get in Salem or anywhere Party City on Halloween. Pretty funny.
Right. So let's see here. All right. Sorry about that. It's kind of hard being the producer and the host at the same time.
I know.
So who am I complaining? So Marissa says, how do you feel witches are viewed today? I personally I still don't feel comfortable talking freely about it unless I'm around others who have the same interests.
Yeah, I feel obviously I relate, and sort of still definitely think there's still so much stigma. I mean, I have family members who are evangelical Christians, and I would not really talk about witchcraft or my practice or what I write about really with them. And, I was filling out a form for a doctor a couple months ago, and they were like, what belief system or spirituality or religion and whatever. And I was putting witch down, and I was like, this person's gonna think I'm a nut. And then I was like, wait, but that's who you are. Don't be embarrassed. But still, I still think there's stigma, even though it's so popular and it's all the pop culture, wildness. At the end of the day, there's still a lot. I mean, there's still QAnon. There's Pizzagate. People think Satan worshipers, witchcraft, that sort of satanic witch is alive and well. And so sometimes you don't want to deal with that, possible persecution that could come your way by just being super out all the time. I definitely relate.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when we first opened here, I was a bit reserved about telling people about what I have going on, and now I'm just I don't know. I gotta be me.
I definitely agree, but there's a time and a place for me. Sometimes I'm there's no need to be super like transparent right now. And sometimes there is. I don't know. I feel like you got to see if you're safe. Like your safety is paramount, you know? And like.
Yeah, well, that's super true. But I gotta say that I really, I admire people like you, people like Pam, people that are really out there publicly sharing this sort of stuff, becoming kind of like a public face to all of it. Let's see, right behind me, you can't see it right here, but you know, I have the incredible Brie Luna here from when she came to visit us.
I love Brie.
And little Bub over here as well.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's you know, all the strong feminist witches that I know, I feel are like such an important part of all of this, to go out there and kind of you know, say that, you know, you doesn't have to be a fuzzy little line that you walk. You're out here publicly doing it. So I was curious, when was the first time that you ever like declared yourself as a witch, or is this the kind of thing that you was it just kind of like one day you were like, oh yeah, that's what's going on, or was it the kind of thing where, like one day you woke up, left the house, and you're like, today's the day?
So my mom's a witch. So really? Yeah, but she didn't use that word because there was so much stigma, you know, for many years. So, and she wasn't in like a initiatory path, like she's just sort of a solitary, but she's a clairvoyant, and what she practices and does is witchcraft, you know. But so I always grew up, I had friends who were Wiccan growing up, but it didn't seem like where I belonged, even though I thought what they did was cool and I kind of be in on it a little bit. I was like, I don't know if that's for me. Because there was just an aesthetic and a vibe, and I was like, I don't know. That wasn't necessarily what I was drawn to. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess I can't be a witch, because back in the like late 90s, that's, you know, what was out there. So I never thought I could like really use that word or embrace it. It's almost like being a feminist. I always think like, oh, you have to be able to do this, this, and this, or believe this for this long, or know all this to take the identity, or even like saying you're a writer. Like it took me like 3 books to be like, yes, fine, I'm a writer. So, yeah, I don't know if there was ever a moment, but then I think inside I always knew that I was looking for something to define myself in a way that made sense. And that certainly does. And the more you use it, the better it feels, right? So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the power of it.
Yeah. And now it's like, as you said, I think it's so cool how many badass folks are like proudly, you know, talking about their practice, and the many ways practices can manifest, because that's the diversity of practice is what's super important, I think. And that, you know, makes it more accessible for everyone to like find their own path that, you know, they identify with.
Yeah. You know, it's like, I always think about our founder, Raymond Buckland. He started off as a Gardnerian Wiccan, and then he realized that, you know, he still remained Wiccan, but he, you know, I have a really incredible cassette where he talks about how he developed the system of Wicca that he had gone afterwards, called CX Wicca. And he was like, well, this wasn't satisfying my needs, so I did this, and then I did that. And, you know, listening to that tape was the day where I realized that this guy was a next level genius, and not just like just a really smart guy. And look at the way they developed his spiritual system compared to what he had before. And I think it's nice that we live in a world where we have options like that. And one thing that I always want to stress with people is, you know, fundamentalism is for other people, you know. For a witch, it's like fundamentalist, and it's why would you be interested in this stuff if you want to just go around pointing fingers and be like, this is what you gotta do? Right.
That's so boring. And I think the more I keep going with this, the more I change and grow and develop. And I'm like, oh, I'm this kind of witch now. I'm this. You know, I love learning new shit. So.
Well, one thing I want to say to my guests that come in here and they want to tell me, like, they're like, oh, am I a hedge witch? Or am I green witch? Or am I like this kind of witch? And I'm like, well, here's an idea. Try to be a well-rounded witch, and then find what that you truly love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, try to be a well-rounded witch, you know, then it'll all come to you there.
Yeah.
So I am really burning to go on to the adventure here. And I gotta say, where is this incredibly beautiful view?
So this is Triora, also in the Italian Alps.
So if Jillian, if you're watching here, let's go there sometime. It looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, there's a witch like B&B you can stay at, and there's multiple museums. Like, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That it looks breathtaking. So
yeah, it is incredible.
So what's going on here?
So that's a marker from the Lancashire Witches' Walk. So there's 10 of them, and on the 400th anniversary of the Pendle witch trials, they installed these all with a stanza of the poem that Carol Ann Duffy wrote. And this one is so dark. That's the last stanza, and this is at Lancaster Castle, where all the accused witches finally like had their final trial, and then were, hanged like a short way down from the castle, away from castle, jury, judge, huge crowd, rough rope, short drop, no grave, only future tourists who might grieve. And that is just a gut punch of an idea that these people had no proper burial. They were just left in a pile, and now 400 years later, we're talking about them, and it's fascinating. Yeah. It's like tourists 400 years later are like paying their respects, and these people were given none back when they were accused.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is heavy stuff.
Yeah. I promise the book is fun too.
The book is really fun, but it's also about somebody experiencing this stuff. Not to get too personal, but how was your mental health while you were doing this? How were you feeling? Or had there been moments of just like absolute despair, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was more honored to be like witnessing these pieces of history, but I did come back and feel super out of it for a while. Like, I think a month of going from death site to death site took a lot more of a toll than I thought. I think I just came back and was like, la, la, la. But like, I needed to purify myself. And I went to some different healers that actually helped me come to terms with some of that. Cause I definitely brought some stuff back that I had to deal with. So yeah, I think you got to be prepared when you go do this. And I thought I was, but I think now I would know even more how to really prepare myself for this kind of thing.
I always think that, if I knew then what I knew now in pretty much everything.
Yes.
So,
yep.
So what is happening here? This looks like a fun place.
Yes. So this is Kittler's Inn, and it's in Kilkenny, Ireland. And it was once owned. This used to be the home of Alice Kittler, who was the daughter of a Flemish merchant. She had quite a good amount of money, and she was kind of probably the most powerful woman who was accused of witchcraft in all of the research I've ever done. And that was in 1324. So before the like actual witch hunts of Western Europe. So it's kind of like an outlier in the history, but it has a lot of the hallmarks of the trials that would happen later. But actually, Alice was able to escape even after she had 4 husbands, and like she had a lot of like stepchildren who wanted the money that their fathers had after they died, and it all got really messy. And so she skipped town after she was accused of witchcraft, and her maidservant Petronilla was actually burned alive in her stead, and was the first woman to be executed for heresy in Ireland.
What?
Yeah, pretty horrible.
So 4 husbands? Wow.
Yes. And they all died. Like, you can see that maybe it would sound like bad, but people just died back then of stuff, right? 1324? Like,
that's true.
There was no medicine like we have today.
But I remember that joke that was like, if Angela Lansbury shows up, you have to watch out because you're probably going to wind up dead soon.
Yeah.
She wrote, right?
Yep.
So anyway, we are talking about the book Witch Hunt, A Traveler's Guide to the Power and Persecution of the Witch by our guest, Kristen Sollee. So this is a really incredibly beautiful book. Very well written, I have to say.
Thank you.
Was there anything that you really struggled with the production of this?
Yeah, when I first started, I wanted it to be like a travel guide, like nerdier and like factual. And then I was like, that leaves out so many people who can't travel, and that's more dry and boring, and that's not who you are.
Kind of like one of those Lonely Planet guys.
Yes, Lonely Planet for witches.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I realized that's not.
Fun idea, though. You
What?
know? That's a fun idea, but
it is. Yeah, but not for me. And no one steal that idea, because I'm going to do that too.
Yeah.
But no, I decided to add historical fiction, and I was like, I don't want to muddy the history, because the history is, I cite like a billion of the, scholars and historians doing the work, spending their lives, doing the work, researching these stories. And obviously there's no one narrative of any witch trial, but I did my best to give like, a constellation of perspectives from contemporary scholars. But I also wanted you to be in the place and not just have dry academic citations or just a journal of me walking around. So I took a few times where I really like, you see the people, you see the trial, or you see like the execution, or you see me interacting with the, remnants of some of these people. And so I wanted the like sort of magical realism or, something fantastical in the book to offset it. And I'm sick of just nonfiction, like dry, whatever. I wanted to make it more exciting for me to write. So that was hard. And I was feeling like I already got a bad review of that part. They're like, I couldn't tell which was fact and fiction. I'm like, okay, it's clear what is.
Yeah. Well, so we have a comment here from Tamara Forsland, Tamara Von Forsland from Australia. And Tamara, I got a question for you. Maybe you could leave a comment. Were there any kind of witch hunts in Australia? It's I've never heard.
I know nothing about that.
Yeah. So Tamara, if you didn't just pop on, leave a comment, go off, please chime in and let us know if there's any that you know about. So she's on the other side of the world. She came to visit us last year.
Oh, awesome.
I think she'll probably come visit next year if we can travel again. So people, wear your masks, please.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of not being able to host my friends.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
This is the ancient burying ground, which is funny, ancient. It's only like the 17th century. But that's what it's called. It's in Hartford. That's what I was talking about that church service. It's Center Church, which is right next to it. And it was like the most beautiful fall day. And, the graveyard. And right before the graveyard are all these bricks on the ground. And they have the names of some of the women who were executed for witchcraft. And it's like a memorial brick. But none of them were obviously buried in the cemetery. But some of the ministers who, helped the hunts along are buried there. But yeah, I know.
Get them out.
Yep.
Get them out. So, in the intro, the first line you read is the witch is the witch is a traveler.
Yeah.
You kind of like explain that comment a little bit, because I find it very true, being the operator of a witch tourist destination, and people come through all the time. And they're witches. They're going here and there. But what do you think it makes a witch want to go spread their witchiness?
Yeah, I meant it like literally and figuratively, because I feel like, as we know, the witch as an archetype has been with us since ancient times and has gone through all these different time periods and places, and still survives today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be writing about this, and because no one would care. Like, she's still alive and has gone through so much, and obviously she's not always, is she? But I think, that's one thing. And the witch travels from fact to fiction, from politics to pop culture. And then at the same time, I think travel is like a metaphor for seeking. And I think a lot of witchcraft practitioners would agree that, if you're interested in the arcane arts or the occult sciences, like, you're interested in the quest for knowledge. And it's not always an easy quest. So you have to go, into places you never thought you'd travel to sort of uncover your path. And that's literal or figurative again. But I feel like that act of travel is just part of the spiritual or, practical journey for so many witches.
Well, I gotta say that I have never met a witch that didn't have some kind of interest in the world, So let's see. Oh, and what do we have here?
The classic Salem.
So we just yesterday, we had a couple of Wiccans on their way to Salem for October, and they stopped here. And I actually had a really moving time with them because, you know, it's always a lot of fun when, like, Wiccans come in here and they see, like, the first Wiccan American high priest headdress and stuff. But what's going on here?
So this is Halloween night in Salem last Halloween. And I just tried to get the pandemonium and this crowd. And I know it's really crowded there right now. I have some friends who live there and work there and are like, don't come to Salem. It's so crowded and dangerous because of Corona. Yeah. But this was in 2019 when we didn't know about it. And so everyone was packed in so tight. And I was with this is the one time I went on a trip with a friend for something I wrote about in the book. We were just walking through these crowds. It was just intense and amazing, all the costumes, and it just feels like an other world. Like you are not on this plane. Salem Halloween is a whole other thing. I've been to Salem many times before, but never Halloween because I was like, oh, that's whatever, cliche Salem Halloween. No, I can't believe I waited so long. I'm embarrassed. I'm a bad witch. No. But I really had such a great time, even though it was crazy.
I bet our partner in the museum, Tony, she goes to Salem pretty much every Halloween. She wants to get Halloween day. And I'm always nervous because I'm like, it's not where they kill witches. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like protesters, you know, which is always funny.
Oh, are they like the ones at Mardi Gras in New Orleans?
They're like Christian protesters saying you're all going to go to hell and, you know, you're sinners and, you know, you're evil or whatever. Yeah.
Get a life.
I know.
There was the one guy, the priest down just a little bit north of New Orleans that was in the newspapers last week, which I got a kick out of. But I don't know. I digress. What am I ranting on about? So, I don't know. This is your book launch party. Anything that you want to share? Anything coming up? Anything or what are you working on now? If you want to share, or is that like I'm a pretty superstitious person. I don't. You know what? I do announce things that I'm going to do that I have no plans to do. You know that's going to motivate them because what they say in the beginning was the word, right? So you sing, it's the spell, right? And it kind of manifests for you.
Yeah, so, like abracadabra, what you speak, you create, you know.
Do you have anything that you want to manifest here for your near to semi-near?
Well, I would like to do a little bit of fiction based on some historical fiction that goes a little deeper than I was able to in a little novella form, but I have some other ideas that I'm not ready to spill yet. But yeah, fiction just for a little, you know, veer off and like get super creative and immerse myself in the past for a bit, especially because the present is really rough right now, you know?
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know. So bonkers.
It is.
You know?
But hey, the past is bonkers too. Like writing this book, immersing myself in the horrors that came before actually made me feel better about right now. Like this is nothing new. Humans have been dealing with this shit forever. We will get through it or not. Some people die. It's horrible. That's just what happens. And then some people live on and they tell the stories and keep other people alive. And I hope I get to be one of the ones who keeps other people alive.
You know? Yeah, hopefully the people tell the stories actually kind of get near to the truth, right?
Yes.
That's yeah. So I just want to point out again that the book Witch Hunt is what we've been talking about, A Traveler's Guide to the Power and Persecution of the Witch. So did you write that title, or is that like did that like just come like just falling out of your
I am embarrassed to say it's not my title. No? I wish it was because it's very clever. It was actually the publisher because I had some other titles because you know that play on Witch Hunt is like, really, are you gonna do it? And I did it, you know, like hunting for witches or a witch hunt, you know. I was like, ooh, is this awkward? But I feel like there's so much reverence in this book, and that it's okay. But
no point reading it did I feel like you were being dismissive at all to the people's plight.
I'm glad.
You know. I was started thinking about it. I think next time I visit my parents when I go to Sweden, I'm going to go up to try to figure out if there's a way to go see where some of the witch hunts there were. Because, this is something that shouldn't be forgotten.
No, and it's funny you say that, because Scandinavia I wanted to go to so many places in Scandinavia, but there was a matter of money, and I just couldn't afford all the places and had to leave it off. And I'm like, oh, there's so many really important places there to go to. So you'll have to tell me how it is. I've been to a few of them in Stockholm, around in Sweden, but not in Norway. I really need to go to Norway.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kristen, hold on for a second here. I'm going to say goodbye to the crew that's been like chiming in and watching here. But I want to say goodbye to you here off. But so I'll be right back.
Okay.
And everyone else that's been watching this, I really, really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching these things here. We don't really have any cool events coming up, but I think I mentioned in the beginning, we have a new t-shirt on, it's on pre-order on our website, bucklandmuseum.org, and this one featuring the mighty Raymond Buckland, because people are like, who's this? Why isn't there a picture of Ray on the Buckland Museum t-shirt? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually a really, really good idea. So we're going with that for our long sleeve for this season. Order your tickets online, please. Let's see, we have comments here. Jack Smiley, a local here, he came to our opening. Thanks for doing this. Thank you for tuning in, Jack. Yeah, I don't know. I guess really the only thing I have to say at this point is thank you so much, Kristen Sollee. Thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you, the viewer. And just one last thing for everyone. Stay witchy, my friends. Thank you very much.